Welcome back once again. As we were talking about the implication of the U.S.-Iranian war over the economic situation worldwide, not only in the Middle East but worldwide. And this war has accelerated a transformation already underway in the international system, a transition from a highly integrated global economy towards a fragmented, security-driven and politically polarized order. That is a little bit very complicated. Very delighted to be having with us over the phone for more details Professor Dr. Ayman Ghoneim, the economic expert. Good morning, Dr. Ayman.
Good morning, madam.
How are you doing? A good day to you. Let me first ask you about the Iranian war. How have it accelerated the transition from globalization to economic fragmentation?
Well, actually, the present conflict in the Middle East proves many facts. Number one, that economics and politics are two faces of the same coin. Number two, it proves that energy is a political commodity. Of course, I'm talking about energy, fossil fuel, petroleum and natural gas. Also, the third fact is that the world economy is like connected tubes, meaning that if something happens somewhere in the world, it will affect politically and economically the other parts. Now, if we start explaining these facts, of course, economics and politics are two faces of the same coin, because today the answer of the economic problem is a political one. We've seen during the war the reports released by Goldman Sachs, for example. It stated that first the increase in the energy supply was due to the war, and then we said that the inflationary effects of such increase depends on the time frame of the war. And then we've seen the expectations published, whether by IMF or World Bank, tying the inflationary effects to the time frame. We've seen the World Bank's report stating that if the conflict continues till the end of the year, then the commodity prices worldwide will increase by around 16%. The fertilizers prices will increase by 31% because natural gas is an integrated part in the inputs of the fertilizers, in the production of fertilizers, and such increase in the fertilizers industries would lead to driving around 45 million people worldwide to hunger, into the zone of food insecurity.
Right.
Yes.
Please, yes, go ahead.
Also, the oil, the petroleum prices is highly affected by the geopolitical tensions and problems, because the prices of oil are not only driven by supply and demand forces, they are also driven by the so-called risk premium that the markets assess and expect regarding the risk of the continuous flow or the disruption in the flow of the supply chain. And that's why if you follow up the prices of Brent oil, for example, which is the benchmark of the energy prices worldwide, you'll find that Brent increased from around $60 to $65 per barrel at the beginning of the year to around $73 per barrel on Feb 28 on the eve of the war, and then during the war it increased to around $115 per barrel, and then when they announced the truce, it suddenly declined to $90 per barrel, and then during the negotiations, when a lot of analysts were pessimistic regarding reaching a settlement, again it increased to around 100 to 105. That means that in the past 3-4 days since last Monday, when we heard a lot of news about the fact that they are going to reach an agreement soon, the price of Brent declined to a range of $90 to $94 per barrel. So this clearly, and by the way, throughout all these phases, the status of the supply chain of the oil was the same. So this clearly shows the effect of the risk premium assessed and put by the markets on the oil prices, and it shows that the oil is a political commodity.
Right. How have this situation or this conflict reshaped the balance inside the Middle East and beyond? Not only the Middle East, but as we are speaking, also the economic situation have prevailed worldwide and will continue to reshape the image even after the war.
Well, actually, we're seeing now a lot of economic pressures on the major world powers. We've seen the inflation, for example, in the U.S. increasing from around 2.4% in Jan 26 to 3.8% in April 26. In Europe, inflation increased from around 1.7% in Jan to around 3% in April. And these figures may sound not very big, but we have to remember that inflation means the rate of increase in prices and the prices of the sold goods. Many of the stocks, many of the stored stocks in the major economies were produced at the prices of oil before the war. And that's why the expectations were that if the conflict resumes, if the conflict continues till the end of the year, then inflation will increase. And we have to tie these inflationary expectations to the reached inflation during 2022 and 23, during the peak of the Russia-Ukraine war, when inflation in the U.S. reached 9.1% in June 22, which was the highest level of inflation since more than 40 years, in the era of President Ronald Reagan. In the EU, the inflation reached around 10.6% in October 2022. Such inflation, of course, has a lot of problems, because we have to remember that inflation, of course, it has many types, but the major two types of inflation are the demand-driven inflation, where you have an increase in the disposable income of the people, so the increase of demand for goods and services. So the prices increase, and also the producers, they have a motivation to increase their production to meet such demand and increase their profitability. In such inflation, it's very easy for the central banks to increase the interest rates a bit, and then this will increase the cost of borrowing and the cost of consumption, the consumer loans, and also will improve the rates of savings, so the demand will decline. The second type of inflation, which is really problematic, is the cost-driven inflation. It's driven by the cost of the factors of production. And when you have the factors of production increasing, the prices of commodities increase, and the income of the people is still the same. Therefore, the numbers of units consumed or bought by one person declines, and therefore such type of inflation is marked by an increase in prices and a reduction in the sales and profitability of companies. So that's why it's called stagflation. It's stagnation plus inflation. And in such situation, the central banks have to increase interest sharply, because they have to strangle demand, reducing demand further in order to control the prices, and then to start from that point. That's exactly what happened in 22 and 23, when the Federal Reserve increased interest by around 500 basis points, and the European Union increased interest by around 375 basis points. The problem here is that we're still living in the let's say post-shock wave of that situation of 22 and 23, when we were faced with this new crisis. Also, this crisis, or for this reason, this crisis is reshaping the energy strategies of the major world powers. When the new American administration came, they announced that they really don't care about these slogans of conserving the environment and of reducing the fossil fuel consumption. But having two world crises, the Russia-Ukraine war and its effect on energy, because Russia is a major oil and natural gas supplier in the world. It used to supply around 40% of the natural gas requirement of Europe, and then the present problem in the Gulf supplies around 25 to 30% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas, and so many of the economies now in the world, they have a big motivation to reduce their reliance on fossil fuel and increase their reliance on renewable energy. In Germany, for example, they plan that by 2030, or they aspire that by 2030 they have to reach 80% of their electricity from renewable energy.
On that note, Professor Ayman, Dr. Ayman Ghoneim, economic expert, I'd like to thank you so much for talking to us on The Breakfast Journey. Have a good day. We're going to go to a short break and we'll come to continue the show, so stay with us.